Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Zoho Zone podcast, where we talk with Zoho partners about their Zoho implementation. I'm Andrew Simpson with Ether Automation, and today on the podcast, I have Jed Thomas from Woggle Consulting.
That's
Jed,
right.
thanks
Hey,
for being on
Andrew.
the show.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. This is great.
Cool.
Yeah,
So I gotta ask, Woggle's hilarious. Like, Woggle, I see it, I smile. What does it mean? What is Woggle?
absolutely. So it's a great question. We get that question a lot from our clients too. So on a ship, there's of course the wheel, and as if you recall, kind of Pirates of the Caribbean style, wheels have all the different spokes coming up. When that wheel is turned in that way that the ship is going straight, the way that the captain of the ship or whoever's steering the ship can tell it's going straight is that they've tied a knot, a woggle knot, to the king spoke of the ship. So it's the topmost spoke. So we derived our name from that concept with the idea, as corny as it may sound, that we're helping you as a business drive your ship straight. So we're the woggle on top of the king post.
Smart. That's clever. If I knew ship, that would make a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
okay, yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
explaining that.
there you are. That's being a Mainer, it's like required. You have to know a little bit about ships over here.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I see that. So, can you tell me about yourself and Woggle Consulting?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been a Zoho consultant for a little over 4 years now. I, like many consultants, started by implementing Zoho at the company that I was at, finding that I loved the product, that it had a lot that I could do with it, and figuring out that other people wanted me to help them do the same. So I got involved with a few other clients here and there and kind of grew from there and just started picking up Zoho both by doing and also, taking their classes, getting their certifications, and really diving in. Woggle as it's a small company. We've got two other full-time employees, and we kind of range. Like in a small company, we all wear different hats, and sometimes those hats look different from day to day, but we make it happen for sure.
Cool. What kind of projects does Woggle like to work on?
Really anything, which is maybe to our fault. We'll say yes to just about anything. My favorite projects are the ones where somebody comes to us and they say, "We have checked out Zoho, we love Zoho, and we realize right off the bat that we don't know how to set it up and we need somebody to help." Because then you get to start with that company fresh, from the ground up. You get to really dive into the processes that they have and the systems that they have in place right now and help them translate those into the world of Zoho in in a way that really develops a system that they can from the start of using Zoho utilize in a way that matches their particular uses. That being said, there's an extra challenge to people who've been on Zoho for a while, and they come to you and they say, "Can you fix our system? Can you clean it up? We've been doing it ourselves. It's a DIY project. Can you help?" Because then you get to like look at the back end and be like, "Oh, that's how they try to do it. Oh, that's fascinating. Oh, look at that. I love that thought process. But let me help guide you in the right direction." So when it comes to industries, though, we've worked with a whole range. I've worked with water filtration specialists who have units at Google headquarters just to make the coffee there, and I've worked with people who have kind of a hospitality industry where people will come down to Mexico and learn Spanish in an immersive environment. It's just kind of a wide range. I love working with any industry because then I get to learn a little bit more about a new industry. That's just delightful for me. It keeps me excited, energized.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting where like you look at a Zoho system and you're like, oh yeah, that's I see the attempt there. It's interesting.
Uh-huh.
It needs to change, but it's interesting,
Yeah,
right?
that's like,
It's always funny when the client goes, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I built it like this, and I know that's wrong. Yeah, okay,
uh-huh.
cool.
At least you know it's wrong. Well, I'll show you what to do. My favorite is when you do that, there's that one thing they just didn't realize there's a button over here, or creating a custom view. And for a client who never knew they could create a custom view, and it just revolutionizes their day. And you get that like aha moment in their eyes. You're like, yeah, that's exactly right. Let me help you.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite is when they go from a subform on a record to like a related list. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is everything I wanted. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's yeah.
Oh my, I love that. Absolutely. Uh-huh.
So what's your favorite implementation you've done with Zoho?
Yeah, it was actually one of my first implementations, partially because this client of mine, which I took on as client like almost 4 years ago now, is still a client of mine. We've developed a really wonderful long-term relationship. We're constantly tweaking, thinking through things on their system as it is now. But they 4 years ago came to me, reached out and said, "We're on the system." So they're a company that works with people who have IRS debt, and they help them, kind of shore up that debt or figure out payment plans with the IRS and kind of get them out of that debt that they've got. So this company was using another system called IRS Logix, really solid system for their industry, but not one that had a lot of automation or workflows in there, and one that the UI was just out of date. So they had found Zoho. They started toying with Zoho, trying to set it up, and couldn't quite figure it out. They were one that came just directly off the out of the gate and said, "Okay, we don't know what we're doing. We need help," and they found me. So we got to work together, kind of come up with a game plan, and roll out Zoho, move them out of their old system into Zoho. It's also one of my first big migrations from an old system to Zoho, which is always exciting, especially when you're new to the field.
Right. Okay, so they were on this IRS based system. Um, they wanted to switch to Zoho for the automation, or was there something else in Zoho that they really liked? Like, it sounds like you didn't sell them on Zoho; they sold themselves. So why did
Right.
they want to change to Zoho?
Yeah, so automation was one of their big features. There are a few. So one was their old system had no automation functionality. Everything was done manually. There are no workflows, no custom functions, nothing along those lines. So everything they had in that system to accommodate for that, they were workarounds and band-aids and piecemeal. They also didn't have a lot of oversight. That was another big thing for them. And I think a lot of clients come to us with that from their systems, whether they're on spreadsheets or on other CRMs or ERPs that just don't give you the analytics that you can pull out of Zoho. They had identified that with Zoho Analytics. They had looked into that system, that app, and they were like, "Okay, cool. So not only can we be getting all this oversight of what we're doing in the CRM, but we can start pulling in our marketing efforts, and we can start pulling in our sales from our QuickBooks system, and we can tie this all together so we can see it all on one page and see what is happening with the company." So once they had identified that, they sold themselves on Zoho, and then they came to me, and that's how we got them.
Cool. So they're using, or you mentioned spreadsheets and QuickBooks.
Right.
Was their previous system like was a similar data structure? Because you had to move all that data over, right? Was it similar kind of
Yeah,
layouts, or how did that work?
that's a great question. It was not. So the way that their system worked, the previous system is so a client would come to them and they would create a case in the system for the client. They would gather all of the client's information, all the client's family information, and all the information on the deal itself, and it would all be in one record in the system, which made it impossible. I know, right? So it made it impossible if they wanted to ever upsell the client. If the client decided not to go with them this year, but then next year came back, they had to overwrite information. They couldn't just tag on other deals, and they couldn't just tag on multiple records to a single, contact. So that was a huge change, and it was one that they didn't actually realize they would be making when they looked at Zoho. They hadn't made that connection that change would happen. So I had to guide them through that. A lot of demo, a lot of showing them how to use a system that allowed them to have multiple deals associated to a single client. Once they figured it out, though, they were like, "This is game changing. This is groundbreaking."
Yeah, it's actually a little surprising that all that data would be on one record because yeah, someone comes one year, but not the next year, but then 2 years after that, and it's like you should have that historical tax information. I don't know how it works in,
Absolutely.
in the US, but
Invoices were included in that. All invoices, you had one invoice for that. I know the best that they had in that system though was that you could have multiple payments for that single invoice. So yeah, they would create an invoice for, let's say $5,000 for a client, and that would be everything that they wanted that client to pay all at once. So they had to know their numbers right off the bat because the system had honed them in on that. It was unbelievable. It was a head scratcher. If I had hair back then, I would have pulled it out.
that's hilarious. I can I also don't have hair, but I can see losing it for this project.
Right.
So, okay, so you found a way to migrate that data and separate it into, deals and accounts and invoices, multiple invoices, and you train the client on this. Now there's a tax base, so I'm guessing there was like a million forms you need to migrate as well.
Oh, yeah.
How did that work?
That was the biggest challenge of this project. It's one of the reasons I love this project so much is are a million forms and they don't have control over those forms because they're working with IRS documentation. So they're taking the PDFs that the IRS is giving them, they're dropping them in their system, and then they're merging all of their client information onto this form so they can then send it out to be signed. One of the benefits of their old system and why they were using that system was that system had some sort of agreement with the IRS, and they would just always keep those forms updated. And you could easily merge and create these packets of documents that you could then send out for signature to one of the clients. Zoho, of course, didn't have that at the time, especially with the way that Writer worked. They didn't have the ability to create this really like packaged document of multiple documents and have that be sent out to the client for signature. And what was especially hard is from client to client, depending on if they're married or single, or if they have 3 years of taxes that they need to pay back versus 5 years of taxes. You have different documents that go out. If they have business taxes, that opens up a whole nother ballpark. It's like another can of worms. I'm mixing my metaphors, but you know what I'm saying. uh, yeah. So what we had to do was we kind of sat down, looked over all the documents that they needed, and came up with a game plan. At the time, Zoho Writer allowed you to do merge documents and take the merge documents and the Word documents and merge them into one packet. But what we had was an issue with the PDF documents. We couldn't do that in Writer. You can now, and one of the things I love about this client is now we're working on updating their system and bringing in the PDF documents. Instead, we had to use another third-party application called DocSpring, which allowed us to tag off their API, use that for the PDF documents, combine them, and then I pulled in what came from DocSpring into the document that came out of Writer and merged the two together, created a good solution for them. It worked well. We used Zoho Creator kind of to bridge that gap between the CRM and DocSpring, and it's ended up working really nice and has been a working solution for them for a little over 3 years now. But
Wow.
boy, it was a process. I tell you what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm excited to
So
go in and clean it up now too.
yeah, with the whole writer's new features and being able to do that in one software, kind of makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So basically you brought over all these documents, millions of IRS documents, and then the user can basically just go through and like select the documents they want to use, and it just sends it out to the end customer. Like, how does it actually work for them?
Yeah, exactly. So what we have set up is on their deals module, as well as their invoices and their payments module, because now they can do multiple invoices and each invoice has its own payment schedule that they can build out. We have a button. It's a custom button I put in there that opens up a Creator app. It's a simple form in Creator where they go in, they select either the packet that they want to put together, or they select the individual documents. They hit submit, that sends off, hits the Zoho Writer API, hits the DocSpring API, creates a packet, and then it'll attach it to the record. We also built out in there the option to select just send for signature. And so what they can do in this is the same process. They can hit send for signature, takes that packet, throws it into Zoho Sign, sends it out for signature via Zoho Sign so that they can just directly from the app just send out the packet for signature. So they now have options. They can either download it to their deal record, or they can just send it directly out for signature, depending on how they're approaching that client.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I was on a call earlier this week, and they were dealing with the problem where like, oh, when I send out a contract or paperwork, I have to open up like they were using DocuSign, so I have to open up DocuSign and drag a bunch of things in, and one contract takes me 15 minutes to make, and like you've got that down to like, hey, all the this whole package, 20 pages, one click, go, right? I think
Uh-huh.
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we see that a lot. Most of our clients, I felt that when that initial consult, I'll always bring up, all right, so what documents are you merging by hand? Let's look at those first, and almost at like 95% of the time, it's, oh yeah, that'd be great. We can do that.
Right. So are you seeing a lot of so this is a great way to save a bunch of time. Are you seeing a lot of like easy win for time saving for your clients within Zoho? Like is there anything else that's like, oh, this is usually a huge time suck that you could just, we've done this project that's similar-ish.
Yeah, one of the big ones that we see, which kind of surprised me, was using Zoho projects and Zoho CRM together a lot. I don't know why it surprised me, but more and more people, even kind of pared down version of Zoho projects, they really want to utilize that to take care of after the deal tasks. You know, you've closed the deal, maybe you need to work with the engineering team to build out the specs for whatever system you're building for this client now. They want to move all that information into projects, spool up a project at the right time, and then have that talk back to the CRM. So more often than not, we end up with some sort of integration between the two. There's some nice kind of out of the box work that can be done with the CRM and projects where you can, go down and create a new project directly from a record. But what they want to see is a little bit more customized. So we've gotten really good at just implementing that solution quickly, where either at a certain stage or with the click of a button, you're able to spool up that project, associate to the CRM, get the two talking back and forth. Which I don't know, they just released a really awesome feature with the CRM. You can now pull in a CRM field onto a project, and they'll just talk to each other. It's a
Oh,
very slick
cool.
integration. Very happy. It
I
makes my
I
life a
did.
little easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to see that feature. I need that. No, it's smart. Okay, so back to the IRS client then, or
Yeah.
the tax IRS. Um,
Yeah.
so what kind of results did this have for them? Like you migrated them over, you streamlined their paperwork process. What kind of impact did this have on their?
One of the big ones was they dropped a lot of financial burden. The system they were using was very expensive, and Zoho comes in so nicely at that price point. They were able to drop that financial burden, but then retain all of the features that they had, plus add a lot more. So now there's a level of automation that they just didn't even realize they could have. Their emails going out to remind clients to sign their packets. They have tasks spool up automatically throughout the process. They work with two primary teams. They have a sales team and then they have a resolutions department. And that sales team, when they are ready to hand something over to the resolution department, all they have to do is click active on that deal and everything moves on over and reassigns the ownership. All of this they were doing manually in their old system. So they saved a ton of time. Not to mention, we just finished up this amazing marketing dashboard where they can see the entire journey of a lead using multiple sources and the cost. In their industry, there's not a lot of API kind of connection with the lead sources they use. So we just kind of had to build that out manually in a spreadsheet. But now we can take that information out of the spreadsheet, we throw it on a marketing dashboard that gives them their ROI, that shows them where people have come through from, how much they're spending on different efforts, and able to just kind of drop that into the CRM as a web tab so that they can just open that up and see how they're doing and where they should be spending money or not. So it's
Right.
been unbelievably helpful for them.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Yeah, I mean, why spend money on like ads on Facebook if you don't get any leads through Facebook?
Exactly. And they've seen that. There's that. In fact, it was Facebook specifically in their case for their industry. They were like, oh, this doesn't make sense. So they've kind of dropped their Facebook ads and they've started efforts in some other lead gen companies that they work with that have worked out really well for them.
Yeah, nice. So, how did in this particular instance, how do you manage like maintenance and training, right? Because you did
Yeah.
bring them over, and so I'm guessing there was still a lot of training, a lot of maintenance for a system that's complex. How do you manage that with this client?
Yeah, so we actually offer support packages or kind of ongoing maintenance packages with our clients. It's completely optional. Nobody has to sign up for them. We do find a lot of people like them, at least for the first couple of months after we've done an implementation. This particular client, like I said, has been with us for years and has been on that ongoing package. So they get a set number of hours every month to use to anything Zoho related, as long as it fits within those hours. It can be anywhere from for our clients between 1 to 10 hours a month that they just kind of have a bucket to use. Those roll over, which is nice, so that if you have 1 month where everything's running smoothly, you don't need training, you haven't hired anybody new, you don't use your hours, you're going to be able to use those next month. with that, we set up weekly or bi-weekly meetings just to check in. Of course, we use Zoho Desk to handle any tickets, so they're able to just email support at Woggle Consulting, and the ticket spools up for them and gets assigned appropriately to their account manager. And we're able to just kind of knock those out and communicate, and of course put resolution on them, so that later, a month from now, they say, "Wait, how did you fix that? What did you do?" We can go back and say, "Well, this is exactly what we did," and work with them on that. Works great. Clients have been loving it.
Cool. No, it sounds great. Sounds extremely helpful for that client. I can't imagine what they were dealing with before meeting
Oh,
you.
oh my gosh, yeah. And then of course the documents change all the time. That's kind of the constant work with them. They get a new document and they're like, "Can you fit this into the system?" We're like, "Absolutely, we've got that for you."
Yeah. Cool. Jed, thank you for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
For the listeners at home or at the office or wherever you're listening to this, if you want to get a hold of Jed, you can go to his website. It is woggleconsulting.com. Again, Jed, thanks for being here.